The Illusion of Meritocracy: Why Black Women's Hard Work Goes Unrewarded. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for being here today. I want to begin by acknowledging the extraordinary woman whose research and courage made this talk possible. Shauntel Roberts isn't just a researcher, she's a revolutionary force reshaping how we understand workplace equity in America. When I first encountered her groundbreaking work documenting the lived experiences of Black women in professional spaces, I was profoundly shaken. Her meticulous data collection, her unflinching analysis, and her refusal to accept comfortable lies have created ripples of transformation across industries, policy circles, and academic institutions nationwide. What makes Chantel truly exceptional isn't just her brilliant mind. It's her relentless commitment to illuminating truths that many would prefer to keep hidden. Through her work, Chantel has given voice to millions of women whose stories have been systematically erased from our national conversation about success, merit, and opportunity. She has created a body of evidence so compelling, so irrefutable, that it demands we reconsider everything we think we know about how advancement works in America. Today, I'm honored to share what I learned from our conversation. Insights that will likely challenge your most fundamental assumptions about fairness, effort, and the American dream itself. We've all heard the narrative, haven't we? Work hard, put in the hours, get the credentials, pay your dues, and success will follow. It's a comforting story, a story that gives us agency, a story that makes the world feel fair and just and orderly. But what if I told you that for millions of Americans, specifically for Black women, this story is a devastating lie? What if I told you that one of the most hardworking demographics in our country is systematically denied the rewards that their efforts should earn them? What if I told you that the very systems designed to create equity are being dismantled at precisely the moment they're needed most? This is the reality that Chantel Roberts revealed to me in our conversation, a reality backed by data, by research, and by the lived experiences of millions of women across this country. Here's the surprising truth: despite Black women having some of the highest labor force participation rates in America, they continue to face the steepest declines in employment, earn significantly less than their peers, even with equal credentials, and are disproportionately affected by recent rollbacks of diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives. Let that sink in for a moment. The demographic that shows up, that participates, that engages with the workforce at extraordinary rates is simultaneously the demographic most likely to be underpaid, undervalued, and underemployed. This isn't just unfair, it's a fundamental contradiction of everything we claim to believe about how success works in America. As Chantal explained to me, this reality reveals something profound. Hard work and resilience alone are not enough to secure equity or advancement. The systems meant to support progress for Black professionals are actively being dismantled at a time when they're needed most. Let me share three key insights from our conversation that challenge everything we think we know about professional advancement. First, Black women's high participation in the workforce does not guarantee job security or pay equity. Systemic barriers persist regardless of individual effort. The data is clear on this. Showing up isn't enough when the game itself is rigged. Second, the rollback of DEI initiatives across major corporations is reversing hard won gains and disproportionately harming Black professionals, making advocacy and collective action more crucial than ever. And third, navigating these challenges requires both personal resilience and strategic community building. It's essential to create networks that support each other beyond what institutions currently offer. Let me bring these abstract concepts to life with real stories happening right now across America. In 2024, at Meta, Facebook's parent company, something deeply troubling unfolded. Under mounting political pressure, leadership began systematically dismantling their internal diversity programs. For Janelle, a senior engineer who had been recruited through Meta's HBCU partnership program just 2 years earlier, the impact was immediate and devastating. I watched as my mentorship circle disappeared overnight, she told Shauntel's research team. The leadership pipeline that had given me hope for advancement suddenly vanished. What makes this particularly painful is the context. After the racial justice protests of 2020, Meta had made bold public commitments to diversify its leadership ranks. Early gains had been promising: increased hiring from HBCUs, mentorship programs that were showing real results, growing representation in technical roles. Then, amid fears of legal scrutiny, the company reversed course. The impact rippled far beyond Meta's walls. Within months, other tech companies followed suit, erasing years of incremental progress for Black professionals with a few policy decisions. As Janelle put it, they asked us to trust the process, to be patient, to keep showing up. And then they pulled the floor out from under us. But this pattern isn't limited to tech. Consider what happened in the federal workforce, historically one of the most reliable pathways to middle class stability for Black women. In early 2025, federal agencies implemented what they euphemistically called workforce optimization. In reality, this meant massive layoffs, with Black women disproportionately affected. For Keisha, who had spent 12 years building a career at the Department of Education, the layoff wasn't just a job loss, it was a betrayal. I had done everything right, she told Shauntel during a research interview: advanced degree, perfect performance reviews, volunteer committee work. I was even mentoring new employees. None of it mattered when the cuts came. The statistics are staggering. The share of Black women in federal jobs plummeted by nearly 33% in just 1 year. For decades, federal employment had offered economic mobility when private sector bias prevailed. Recent policy changes undermine this pathway almost overnight. The ripple effects extend far beyond individual careers. As Keisha explained, my salary supported not just my household, but my mother and my sister's family too. When my job disappeared, it destabilized an entire community. And then there's the reality facing millions of Black women in care work, cleaning services, and education support roles. Industries hit hardest by automation and budget cuts. In these sectors, Black women remain overrepresented, yet dramatically underpaid. Take Letitia, a certified nursing assistant in Louisiana who participated in Shauntel's research. Despite 15 years of experience and additional certifications, she earns just $14.50 an hour, roughly 50 cents for every dollar earned by white male colleagues with comparable credentials. I work two jobs and still can't make ends meet, she shared. When I asked about advancement opportunities, my supervisor suggested I focus on being grateful for the job I have. Advocacy groups have pushed for wage transparency laws and targeted upskilling programs, but adoption remains slow outside progressive regions. Meanwhile, women like Letitia are forced into multiple jobs without benefits or security. What's particularly troubling is the historical context. Generations of Black women have relied on these sectors due to exclusion from others. a legacy rooted deeply in structural racism rather than individual choice. These stories illustrate why working harder isn't enough without systemic reform. They underscore the need for collective advocacy alongside personal ambition. Now, I want to be clear about something. This isn't just about fairness in the abstract. This is about real people, real families, real communities whose economic security and well being are being undermined by systems that claim to be meritocratic but operate in ways that are anything but. When we tell people that hard work is all it takes to succeed, we're not just being inaccurate. We're gaslighting millions of Americans who work incredibly hard every day only to find themselves falling further behind, as Shauntel Roberts eloquently explained during our interview. The myth of meritocracy doesn't just harm those who are excluded from opportunity, it corrupts our entire understanding of what makes a just and functional society. Think about it this way: if we truly believe that hard work should be rewarded, wouldn't we be outraged to discover that one of the hardest working demographics in our country is systematically denied the rewards their effort should earn them? Wouldn't we demand change? Wouldn't we recognize that something is fundamentally broken in how we structure opportunity? The data Chantel shared reveals something profound about American society. We don't actually value hard work as much as we claim to. What we value is hard work performed by certain people in certain contexts with certain backgrounds, and that's not meritocracy. That's bias masquerading as merit. But here's where this story takes an unexpected turn. The solution isn't just about individual resilience, though that matters. It isn't just about working harder, though effort counts. It's about recognizing that systems change requires collective action. As Chantel emphasized in our conversation, navigating these challenges requires both personal resilience and strategic community building. It's essential to create networks that support each other beyond what institutions currently offer. This is where the concept of soft power becomes revolutionary. In a world that has demanded Black women be strong, be resilient, be unbreakable, there is radical potential in creating communities of care, in building networks of mutual support, in demanding that institutions change rather than expecting individuals to simply endure. The path forward requires us to reject the false narrative that success is simply a matter of individual effort. It requires us to acknowledge that systems are designed to produce the outcomes they currently generate, and that changing those outcomes requires changing those systems. So I stand before you today with a challenge, one inspired by the brilliant and courageous work of Shauntel Roberts. Will you have the courage to see what has been hidden in plain sight? Will you recognize that when millions of hardworking Americans consistently fail to advance, the problem isn't their work ethic, it's our systems? Will you use whatever privilege and power you possess to demand accountability from institutions that promise equity but deliver exclusion? Will you stand in solidarity with those fighting not just for inclusion, but for fundamental transformation of how opportunity is structured in America? Because the truth is this: a society that systematically fails to reward the hard work of millions of its citizens isn't just unfair, it's unsustainable. It isn't just inequitable, it's inefficient. It isn't just morally wrong, it's economically self defeating. We cannot continue to tell the comforting lie that hard work alone is enough. We cannot continue to blame individuals for systemic failures. We cannot continue to dismantle the very programs designed to create more equitable workplaces. If we truly value hard work, we must ensure that it's rewarded regardless of who performs it. If we truly believe in merit, we must create systems that recognize merit wherever it exists. If we truly want a just society, we must build one where effort reliably leads to opportunity for everyone. The time for comfortable myths is over. The time for transformative truth has arrived. Thank you.